Hello, I'm Charlotte, one of the artists at the RUH. We'd like to share this video so you can take part in a workshop using one of our specially designed art bags. Our participant virtual programme provides creative activities in the hospital when we can't be there in person. So inside your bag, you'll find a selection of materials that you can use for making a model tree, something like this. So let's start by assembling the base for the tree. You need to start by putting the tube inside the hole in the middle of this cardboard plate for the base, and you'll see I've left the holes near the top. And then I'm going to get a few pieces of masking tape to stick around the bottom just to hold that tube in place while I'm working on the branches. That should be enough. And then the next thing I'm going to do is use some of these thick cardboard straws to make the branches for the tree. You'll see you can press them like this to shape the branches. You can cut them to make them different sizes. So there we are, let's start with this one. I'm going to get the end of the straw and just push that through one of the holes in the top of the cardboard tube, and then I'm going to get a piece of masking tape and stick one underneath the straw and one above it just to hold it in shape like this. And then I'm going to carry on and stick some more branches in these other holes. You could also try joining two pieces together to make a different shaped branch. So like with this one, I've cut off a shorter section. I'm going to hold it against the other piece of the straw and wrap a piece of masking tape around it. There we go. So that makes a different shaped branch for your tree. And I'm going to pop that one in there like this. So if you just carry on putting the straws through the holes, and you can also put them into the top of the tube like this until you've built up your tree shape. So then you will end up with something that looks a bit like this. You can see we've got the branches all the way round, and I've pushed a little piece of tissue paper in the top just to close the hole on the top of the tree. So the next step is I'm going to start covering the tree and the branches and the base with pieces of tissue paper. Inside your pack you'll find there's a different selection, all kinds of different colours. I'm going to keep this quite natural, so I'm going to use some brown tissue paper, and we just need to get lots of glue over the tree trunk like this and start pasting it down. Don't worry if it's crinkled, it doesn't have to be perfect, and actually if you have it a bit crinkly, that all adds to the texture of the tree. So we're just going to keep going and then add some green pieces around the base. That's it. So we'll just keep going, and then you will end up eventually with something that looks like this. So if you wait for the glue to completely dry, and then you could give your tree a paint treatment to highlight that texture. The crinkly tissue is a really nice way to make a tree bark texture. So I'm just going to use very lightly, brush some white paint over the top of the tree. And can you see how it's starting to bring out that texture? There are a couple of other colours in your pack too, so you could use gold if you wanted a slightly more magical effect, or you could use different colours, or you could add layers of different coloured tissue paper. That would create quite an interesting effect on the tree. So then once you've done that all over the tree, you could start sticking on some leaves. There are coloured papers and tissues in your pack you can use, and the easiest way is just to put some blobs of glue over your tree and then stick on the leaves like this. And then you just have to keep going until you've completely covered your tree. In the end, you should end up with something that looks a bit like this. And you can see on this tree, I've used the colouring sheet, which we've provided with your pack. So if you want to, you could draw around the edges, colour in those animals and cut them out. Or if you prefer, you could design your own creatures, make up a story. There are lots of different ways that you could decorate your tree. So we really hope you enjoy using your art bag and have lots of fun making your enchanted tree. I'd like to show you some different ideas for making trees. Let's have a look at this one. So this one is a spooky Halloween tree. I've cut out the bottom of the cardboard tube to make a mouth and then added some cut out eyes for a face. And I've made the branches really curly and added these cut out bats, and you can see on the base there are holes where you can put little toys or other cut-out characters. So that's a really fun way to make a spooky scene. This one over here is an enchanted fairy tree. I've used the cut-out fairy door from your colouring sheet, and I've covered the branches in multicoloured pretty tissue paper leaves and then added some stick-on flowers and some mushrooms, and then I've given the base and the tree a light brushing with gold just to give it a really magical effect. So another idea you could try is to make one of these jewellery hangers. If you leave the straws straight instead of curling them into branches, you can stick them into the tube, and then once it's covered in tissue paper, you can use it for hanging necklaces and bracelets. And I've covered it in a variety of different colours, so it's got a lovely vibrant effect. There are lots of other tips for making trees on the worksheet, which is in your pack. And we really hope you enjoy using your Participate virtual art bags.